What's up, YouTube? It's your boy DR2727. Shout out to all my Transformers collectors, 1/6 scale collectors, Mezco collectors, Marvel Legends collectors, whatever you collect, shout out to you. This month's video is about why official and third party need each other. And before we get started, let me just say a couple of house cleaning things first. Forgive me for not doing my monthly videos. I've been moving and trying to set everything up. So once I get everything set up like I want it, I'll get back to doing my monthly videos and rants about things. Secondly, and more importantly, I am starting a podcast with my brother J.L. Horton, JAL_HORDAN on Instagram. I think his name is Steve Sanders on YouTube. And we are calling it Two Brown Boys Talk Toys. And you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, the number 2 Brown Boys Talk Toys.com. And like the name says, it's just a podcast where we'll talk about toys, collectibles, and we want to be very engaging to the community. We want to reach out to the community. We want the community to be involved. So if you want, we want to interview people in the community. So if you want to be on, hit us up at twobrownboystalktoys.com at gmail.com, excuse me. And we definitely would like to have you on. Or we have an Instagram page at the number 2 BBTT show. If you hit us up on Instagram, we definitely like to have you on and schedule an interview with you. So I'm gonna thank you guys in advance, because I know the community always show love and listen. And we should have our first couple of podcasts posted right after TFCon. So check us out, iTunes, Stitcher, and the number 2 brownboystalktoys.com. So thank you again in advance. Now back to this video. This month's video is about why official and third party need each other. And this is purely a Transformers problem, and we'll get to why later on. But this came about as kind of my reaction to certain videos I've seen, and to people who collect Transformers, specifically Masterpiece Transformers. We are rounding out a lot of our collections. I think our season 1 cast is pretty much done, maybe minus a cliff jumper. Season 2 is pretty close to being done, and season 3, give or take, after the Springers and RC and Cups will be done. So with that being said, I think it was raised about what happens to, the Masterpiece Transformers collecting community then, or just Transformers in general. Would the Masterpiece just die out? Would the collecting game die out? What will happen from that point? And so I just want to talk about my thoughts on that and where I think we've come from, where we are, and where we can go. And these may be ramblings by, an idiotic black person who loves Transformers, but I think it's a fun conversation. I want to get everybody thinking about it and just coming up with ideas. So as always, share your comments and your thoughts about this subject, and how can we improve and keep the collecting, specifically Transformers Masterpiece collecting, going. And we are going to do this in zones. So each toy in each zone is going to represent kind of a concept, not a specific toy, but we should be able to use these toys to kind of enlighten, convey the points about, past, present, future kind of thing. Without further ado, let's get started. So the first zone is pretty much official. And in this video, official means Takara and Hasbro. And so we all know Transformers started in '84 with the cartoon and the toys, and most of us either grew up in that time or have somebody like a parent or something who grew up in that time and kind of indoctrinated Transformers to us. And so Hasbro is in the business of making toys. That's kind of the first point I want to get through. So they aren't trying to make collectibles, they're making toys. And they make toys for the movie line, for G1, new projects and new brands under Transformers. But their toys are meant to be cheap. $20, something you see in Walmart, something you see in Target, and like, hey, as a kid, hey, mommy, get this toy, and you can grab this toy, muck around, play with it. And it has some decent quality, but it's definitely not a collectible. It's meant to be a toy. And there are some in the community who still collect these, which I think is a smart and cool way to stay. You got family, kids, or just, don't want to invest too much in Masterpiece. You buy these, they're playable. You can mess around with them, Transformers. It keeps you engaged in the community and at a reasonable price point. So Hasbro, Takara are in the business, of making toys. That's their primary thing, is to make toys. But they do recognize that as the brand has grown, we've grown up also, and we've become adults. We have more disposable income, and some of us have demanded a better quality toy. So they decided to throw us a bone and move into the collectible game and create us Transformers Masterpiece. So Transformers Masterpiece, from my understanding, is meant to be more of a nod to the cartoon with bigger scale, better paint, just a better overall toy. And this moves into the collectible world. And so what happens is they give you a better quality product for a much more expensive price with a better representation of what was on screen, as opposed to these, which are just, okay, the characters, similar colors, some key elements, but by and large, they don't transform the same as on screen. They don't look as screen accurate, but they are kind of a loose representation. Masterpiece is meant to be more of a stricter representation of the characters on screen. And so when they created Masterpiece, of course, they created the name characters such as Optimus, Starscream. Skywarp is here representing the Starscream mode, Bumblebee, Megatron, you know, most of the name characters without doing some of the lesser known characters, because again, official Hasbro and Takara aren't in the business of making collectibles. They're in the business of making toys. So as we focus back on the collectibles, they threw us a bone with these, and we all wowed, especially in the second run with how they did some of the later masterpieces. But to the previous point, they aren't trying to do everybody. They're trying to do key characters and give the collectible community, throw us a bone, if you will. So you're saying, hey, and I think it's right now it's about 20 Transformers masterpieces, 25 Transformer masterpieces that span different brands or different genres of Transformers, but we're focusing on G1 Transformers right now. And so you're saying, hey, it's way more than 20 G1 Transformers. What happens to the rest of them? How can I get the rest of them in this amazing masterpiece scale? Hence, third party. Third party was created for a couple of reasons. They really were created to fill your shelves or characters, and not just masterpiece size as you see with the Megatron and the Windblade, with smaller scales too, but we're just focused on masterpiece. But third party was created to fill your shelves with Transformers that official didn't make, and also upgrade inferior products that official did make. Those are the two things that, in my mind, third party does. And as you can see with this, third party is more expensive than official, but most times you get more for your money. You get better paint, better engineering, more accessories, and a more thoughtful attempt. And third party is born strictly, this is strictly a Transformers problem, because Hasbro or official Takara or whatever doesn't license transforming robots out to third party companies, to other companies, whereas their other properties, Hasbro owns Marvel and they own Star Wars. They license those out. They license Transformers out, but only the non-transforming action figure statue part of the business, not the actual transforming robot part of the business. So third party came along, filled the void with the Transformers, and did a good job. But as the old saying goes, they've cut their nose to spite their face. So it's so many different third party companies. I think each one of these is done by a different third party company, except for the reflector and the slag. But everything is done by a different third party company, and all of these companies tackling a limited number of properties and people, or bots in this case, excuse me. So with each third party creating, you know, or taking a slew of bots and making them, they've come to a point now that pretty much there are no more bots to make. And so if you're a business and if you're a collector, you want to know, okay, yeah, I got my collection. What happens from this point? How can we move forward? How can we go from here? And so what happens is this creates an interesting problem about why official and third party need each other. And we'll start and talk about real quickly why third party needs official. We'll go to this guy, or these gals, Victorion and Windblade. These are official creating characters out of nowhere, letting the fandom take a part of it. And that's giving us a representation of these characters. And what this does is when official reaches out and creates more characters, it gives third party more bots that they create. And so just like you see this official third party Windblade here, this is a third party Windblade. This is a direct reflection. This was created just because this official allowed this to be born. So third party needs official to create more characters so they can create different representations, better representations, whether it's masterpiece, whether it's add-ons for Victorion, which they have, or whatever, or different scales. Whatever they do, third party needs officials to keep making characters, to keep investing in the brand so they can make characters, essentially. It's simple as that. Third party needs more characters, and they need official to take it seriously and create more characters so they can manufacture and make more characters. But the more interesting part of this is, why does Official need third party? Bam. Official needs third party to better flesh out characters that are either A, weren't popular in the animation, B, weren't in the animation, or C, are represented in other mediums besides animation. And we'll tackle this initially. So we'll start with the characters who were in animation who didn't really have a personality. We'll start with Swerve. Swerve was in G1. He had maybe 2 or 3 scenes in season 3, but he in IDW is a key character, and it took third party to basically highlight the parts of him. And so if you see with the toy, this is my first blaster and his drinks, and this ties directly into the character, because in the original cartoon he didn't have any personality. He just rolled around once or twice, and that was it. So third party can take already created characters and give them personality, and give us a representation of a more popular version of the character, which is the IDW version. Same thing with Tailgate right here. Also, third party can help fill in products that have already been made by Official, which are the same thing, lesser known and unknown people. So Six Shot here goes with, I'll show you. Six Shot here is a third party fill in for Metroplex over there. And so it's a legend scale that's meant to go with Metroplex. And third party does this and tackles these fill-in pieces very well. But it gives you a representation to kind of stack alongside your Metroplex. Also, third party takes lesser known characters. Like if you weren't watching the comic book, if you weren't reading the comic books as a kid, you didn't really know who the Wreckers were. The Wreckers, and that is Impactor, the leader of the Wreckers. He was in the comic books, but like I said, you had to be into the comic books. And if you were a kid, I don't know, like over here, Marvel owned Transformers, but they weren't that popular, at least in my part of the United States. But IDW is taking him and giving him much more of a personality. And with that being said, third party has given us a representation of this character, and it keeps our interest going, not only in the comic book that he's in now, but it keeps us interested in the brand also. And third party also does one more thing. They take unknown characters, which was created and licensed to IDW, in this case Torn, and make a representation of him. If you only watch the cartoons, or if you haven't read the comic books, Torn is a focused character. You could look at it like Prime, Megatron, and Torn. He's the leader of the DJD. And that's a completely created for made up character and made up group by IDW. And third party took that character and gave a representation of this character, which is solely needed, whereas Official will probably never get to that character. So we need Official needs third party to keep making representations of characters so that the brand can still be popular and still move forward. And still move forward with older collectors and even with younger collectors. So now younger collectors can get a representation of Torn, or even know who Torn is, know who Impactor is. And so it gives Hasbro a property that is created 30 years ago. It gives them an extra breath of life. Third party gives them an extra breath of life because it gives us a chance to have representation of characters that we'll never have without third party. So I know this is a rambling, it may not be incoherent, but these are some of the thoughts I had. So to sum it up, Hasbro Official Takara makes toys. They gave us collectibles as kind of a bone to say, hey, we understand that you guys have grown up. You want a better representation. We'll do special characters, but we aren't doing a full line because we don't feel that it's much money in it. We rather sell 1 million of these at $20 than 1,000 of these at $100, or 10,000 of these at $100. So from that was born third party. Hey, since they don't want to license out and they don't want to create all the characters, we'll create all the characters for you and we'll make these products better. So third party was created. And so since third party has been created, it has breathed new life into Transformers. And so Official now says, hey, let's create more characters. Here we are. They've created more characters that can be represented by third party, as we see with Windblade and Little Windblade, and is given a shot of energy into the Transformers brand that even Official recognizes. And so with that being said, third party has taken some older characters, lesser known characters, and even new characters, and giving us representations that keeps that adrenaline shot and that love for the brand continuing on. So that's how I see it. That's why I think that official needs third party and third party needs official moving forward, so that official can keep making characters that third party can leech off of, and third party can keep making representations of lesser known or unknown characters to keep the fandom is excited and interested in the brand. All right, thank you guys for watching. Sorry if it's a rambling. Remember to comment, subscribe, and follow.